senators in one powerful plan to overhaul our tax code and your taxes. Florida Senator Marco Rubio and Utah Senator Mike Lee teaming up and going on the record to talk about their plan to overhaul your taxes. But that's not all. They have much more to say. Senators, nice to see both of you.
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
So you have a proposal for tax reform, and let me start first with you, Senator Rubio. What is your tax reform proposal?
It does two things. It's pro-family and it's pro-growth. On the business side, it's I think the most aggressive pro-growth plan I've seen in a while. It would make America the best place in the world to invest and innovate again. In essence, it tells companies the more money you pour back into the economy by growing, by building a new factory, hiring more workers, the less you're going to pay in taxes.
So it goes to the corporate tax.
It goes not just to the corporate tax. It takes away the disincentive to invest in improving your capital facilities. It says that you can immediately expense whatever money you spend to grow your business. You can immediately deduct that from your taxes, and that's going to encourage more businesses to grow, to start new lines of work, to expand operations and hire more people.
Senator Lee, as I understand, one of the provisions bringing the corporate tax down from 35% to 25%. But a lot of American people have other objections to the tax code, is that they can't figure out their own taxes, that there are 3,300 or 3,500 earmarks in it if you follow Simpson Bowles, so they don't like that. Members of Congress came and fill out their own tax reform, and neither can the rest of us because nobody can fill it out. So while it's laudable to lower the corporate tax rate to spur business, what about the little guy out there?
Well, there's a lot in this plan for them. In fact, that's why we wrote this, is to help the little guy on the individual side and on the business side. I mean, look, I sit on the Joint Economic Committee here in Congress, and a few months ago we had an expert who came to testify as a witness. This man had a PhD in the U.S. income tax code. That was his PhD. I feel bad for the guy, but that's where he chose to pursue his doctoral studies. I asked him, do you do your own taxes? He said, no, absolutely not. Why? Well, because there's no way I could ever be sure that I got it right. And that's one of the things that got me thinking, how can we change this? Because we've got to change it.
Does your reform bill, besides, I mean, I realize that there are going to be fewer tax brackets for the personal, and I realize the corporate advantage. But, you know, for the person who's filling out his tax return, a lot of people want a flat tax, they want a sales tax, they want a lot of things. They want, like, wild reform to change everything. Does yours do that for them?
Absolutely. And for 80% of Americans, this would be a flat tax. This would be a single-rate tax system.
When we start going into the deductions, the loop, as I call them, loopholes, or the earmarks, I mean, it gets so enormously complicated, and that seems a little bit unfair. Maybe if you get a lobbyist, you get a loophole.
That's why we do away.
Are you getting rid of all
of them except the mortgage and the charitable deduction? Everything else is that flatter tax rate for 80% of Americans are going to be paying 15%, and then if they have children, of course, they qualify for the child tax credit. It's significantly simplified. It's a major step in the direction of flattening the tax code and making it easier to fill out.
I take it if all the Republicans, or you could in the Senate, to go with you. Can you get any Democrats?
Well, I've been in conversations with some Democrats about it, and some of them are very intrigued. We're going to see where we can go with this.
All right, lots going on Capitol Hill. Netanyahu, Prime Minister, yesterday. Any thoughts on his speech?
I thought it was an absolutely amazing speech, and I've been here 4 years, as has Senator Rubio. I've never seen anyone address a joint session of Congress and be received so well. I've never seen anyone present a joint session of Congress and inspire the place to erupt as if a rock star had entered the room.
I think his speech will have an impact.
I do. He spoke like a man, he spoke like what he is. He spoke like a man whose country is fighting for its survival, faced by a brutal enemy who wants to eradicate them from the face of the earth and is on the verge of acquiring a nuclear capability. And he sees the strongest ally in the world, the United States, on the verge of signing a terrible deal that virtually guarantees that at some point in the next decade, Iran will have a nuclear weapon and will do so with the permission of the international community. That's what he spoke, as someone who understands what's at stake here, and we should heed his warnings.
What about the Hillary Clinton Secretary of State controversy over the emails?
Well, number one, it appears she's violated the rules that the State Department had established. But the bigger concern is, was she transacting official government business on a server that's not secure? Because we know these servers are targets for foreign intelligence. We know the Chinese, the Russians, the North Koreans, the Cubans, and others are constantly trying to hack into computers, and especially that of governmental officials. And if she was transacting sensitive State Department business on an insecure server, that alone is reason to be alarmed.
Senator?
It'll be interesting to see how this pans out. I don't know a lot of the facts of the case, but I echo the concerns expressed by Senator Rubio.
You've been here 4 years. Politics meaner than you expected?
Sure, it's mean. There's a lot of mean to be had here. But I think a lot of times people miss the fact that there's also a lot of niceness here. There are a lot of people who get along well. Marco and I both have friends on the other side of the aisle. We both have colleagues with whom we agree on several issues while disagreeing on a whole lot of others. And I think there is a lot more goodwill here between members of different parties than a lot of people are inclined to think.
I'm not going to ask you if you're going to run, because that's an issue, but why would you want it?
Well, first of all, just some perspective about the nature of our politics. In America, if you oppose someone's ideas, they'll write a bad editorial or maybe run a negative campaign. In Russia, they shoot you. So just have some perspective about...
In Iraq and Syria, you get your head chopped off.
Exactly
you don't
right.
even, just for a thought.
And look, I mean, as I said before, I'm seriously thinking about running for president. I haven't made a final decision, but either way, I think it's important for our country to transition into the 21st century. It's time to turn the page on the 20th century, and part of that is to become globally competitive again. That's why I'm so excited about this tax reform. It makes us globally competitive again.
Well, I think most people agree that we got to do something about our taxes. When none of us can do our taxes ourselves, that's really a bad sign. Anyway,
right.
Senators, thank you both.